What's going on, James here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Roth IRA, whether you should invest in one, whether you shouldn't, and my personal feelings about why I believe investing in retirement funds is just being a sheep in life. And please, before you jump off this video, understand one thing: you don't know until you know. And I've seen tons of different channels talk about this, and a lot of times they come from people who are either a financial analyst, or this is their job. They sell financial retirement vehicles, and it's kind of their job to push, in my opinion, what I like to call propaganda toward the middle class, younger people. And I'm going to get into that in this video. And please, let me encourage you to do a few things. Number one, do me a favor. If at any point you understand what I'm saying and you either agree or disagree, there's no problem with having an opinion, do me a favor and smash that like button, just like Graham always tells us to do, because I've watched a couple of his videos, and that's kind of what put this into my mind to talk about this, because I have a little bit of a different view, although he did that video a long time ago. Graham Stephen, by the way, is who I'm talking about. He did that video a long time ago, and I'm sure his thoughts on it probably changed a little bit. Okay, so what I want to really do is I want to give you another perspective, a perspective outside of what you hear mainstream talk about, what you hear your parents talk about, what you hear pretty much about 99% of people talk about, and that is putting your money in a retirement fund. You got to plan for retirement, James. My father, still to this day, I'm 40 years old, still to this day, thinks that I need to plan for retirement, even though over the last 4 years generated over $20 million running my business. Still doesn't matter, right? This is kind of an old school way to think, and I'm going to give you another option. All right. First of all, it's important for you to really watch this video in its entirety. It's not going to be long. You're talking about 12 to 15 minutes because it's not rocket science. And I want to give you a different perspective. It depends what you want out of life. Okay. That is really going to be the driving force behind whether you want to kind of follow the sheep in life. All right. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what you want out of life. All right. But it's also extremely important to understand you have options. And a retirement account, a retirement vehicle, might not always be the best option for the entrepreneurial spirit. Okay? It might not be the best option for somebody who wants to live outside of the 99, 98, I'll even give it 97% of people. I've never wanted to live in that class. Not that there's anything wrong with that class. Most everybody I know is part of that class, but I wanted more out of life. And if that is something that you can understand, then you should definitely listen to this. And also, just because maybe you don't need to be part of the 1 or 2 or 3% of wealthy people in this country, doesn't mean you have to still follow those rules. All right. I don't invest in any retirement accounts. And in this video, we're going to strictly talk about the Roth IRA. So what is a Roth IRA? Let's give a 30-second commercial on it. Essentially, a Roth IRA is a retirement account that is after tax dollars. Okay. So you essentially you get taxed on your income, and then you can contribute. I think it's up to about $6,000 per year, single. All right. However, there's income restraints on that. For example, I myself can't invest in a Roth IRA because I make too much money to invest in it. I think it's $129,000 a year, $205,000, $206,000 if you're filing jointly. If you're making too much money, you can't invest in a Roth IRA. But if you're under that threshold, you certainly can after tax, right? So you're going to get taxed, and then you can put your money into a Roth IRA. Now, what I really want to do is kind of give you real world examples and not just talk about it and throw screenshots up there. I want to literally go through how I determine, and I'm going to give you my own real life example, how I determine whether this investment would be good and what alternative. What's the opportunity cost, right? Opportunity cost is what you're giving up now by making a choice, and what you're giving up in the future by making a choice today. What's the opportunity cost? By putting your money in a retirement account. So, like I said, a Roth IRA up to $6,000 a year after tax income, all right? And then reap the benefits of growing that money tax-free, drawing that money tax-free. You have to be 59 and a half or older to do so. There's some exceptions to that, all right? And you have to be vested in the Roth IRA for at least 5 years or more, all right? Otherwise, you're subject to income tax as well as a 10% penalty. Now, no, 10% penalty on the growth. Now, here's the thing. Here's the biggest reason that bothers me about investing in any retirement fund. When somebody says invest in a fund, all right, so Roth IRA, government, essentially they're saying I know what to do with your money more than you know what to do with your money, and I don't trust you, right, post-tax. I don't trust you to pay your taxes. So essentially, I'm going to create this thing that looks amazing from the outside to almost force you to agree that it's the best option that you have. Okay? So essentially the government is saying, give me your $6,000 a year. All right? Can't touch it to your 59 and a half without getting penalized. Can't touch it to your 59 and a half. All right? I'll pay you a little bit of interest, but I'm only going to pay you the interest based on market fluctuations, but I'm going to know what to do with your money more than you will. I don't know about you, but I sure as hell know what to do with my money way more than anybody else, especially the government. Okay? So with that being, and look, before I get into the numbers on here, all right, let me flat out and say there's nothing wrong with going this route, all right? But you may be more savvy than you think. And I'd like everybody here to think that way. I don't care if you're 18 or 50. I want you to understand something. Nobody will handle your money better than you. And I don't even care if you've spent most of your life spending all your money, all right? Because when there is a clear path to it, it's a lot easier to save money when you know what you're going to do with it next, okay? Now, a retirement fund is great, right? It's great because it forces you to save, essentially. Right? Because the government doesn't trust you and doesn't trust you to save your money. They don't want you to be 65 years old and be on the streets, right? There's some sort of, I talk propaganda, but there's also some sort of outside reason for the government to force retirement savings. Okay, they want you to be able to live out your retirement on your own without asking the government for help or forcing their hand to have to help. All right, we don't need to get into all of that. I trust myself to make the right decisions with my money, and I hope you do too. So let's look at real world examples. Let me just pull up my my notepad here. All right, so I hope everybody can see that. So let's arbitrarily, I already pulled some numbers for video time. All right, I don't want to go too long here. I know everybody has things to do in life. So I want to give you, and again, you can go and check these numbers if you so choose. So let's take a look at let's take a look at a Roth IRA, okay? And let's say you're maxing out the Roth IRA at $6,000 per year after tax, right? So essentially you paid taxes on that $6,000, and because it's after tax, and then you're going to go invest it for future use pre-tax, or not having to pay tax on it. Okay, so that's $6,000 per year. Let's draw this out between years 1 through 10, 10 through 20, and 20 to 30. All right, let's look at what these numbers look like. I assumed a 7% tax rate, interest rate. All right. It could be 8, it could be 9, it could be 4, it could be 3. Again, another drawback is you don't really know what's going to happen. Okay. So by the end of year 10, all right, you're looking at $82,898. Let's call it $899. All right. And you put in $60,000. All right. By year 20, and I'm year 10, by year 20, you're at $245,973, and you put in $120. And year 30, you're at $566,764, and you've put in $180,000. Okay, pretty good, right? So because we're all going to grow old, we're all going to grow old. Now, this doesn't calculate. And let's just say you were 20 years old when you did this. Old, and now you're 50. 50 years old. Now, let me also throw in here. This doesn't include inflation. All right. So figure 2 to 3% a year inflation, which is a very scary thing when you start doing that. But I want to make this as easy as possible for you to understand. So here you are at 50 years old. You got $566,764. Now that's, again, you're not supposed to be touching this until you're 59 and a half, unless you have reasons that fall under the approved reasons to pull that money out. But to keep things very simple, that's a pretty good return on your money. You put in $180,000, you now have $566,764 sitting in an account. Would make you feel pretty good, right? What is the opportunity cost of what you could have done with the money at year 10, with the money at year 20, right? With the money at year 30? Because opportunity cost is a very real thing. I was the economy major at Rutgers University. I learned a ton about opportunity cost. To me, opportunity cost is one of the most important things in our life, because every day we make choices, and what one choice, you're giving up something else, and what's the cost of that? All right. Now, you can almost drive yourself insane, but let's just look at this. So I'm going to save this because I'll probably end up bringing that back up, and then I'm going to start here. Let me give you my real life example. Okay. To some extent, give or take 4 or 5 years, but to some extent, because it's real life. So let's assume that by end of year 10, instead of putting it into a retirement account, you put it into some fixed income. All right. And I'm not going to even calculate interest here, because again, I want to keep this very simple. But let's just say you're able to find like a mutual fund, that's returning 3 to 4%. So at the end of 10 year, this is 10 year, you have essentially your base amount of 60,000. Remember, you put in 60,000 into the Roth IRA. So let's just assume you have 60,000. Okay. Instead of this being in a Roth IRA, okay, sorry for my handwriting. Instead of this being in a Roth IRA, you decide to buy a 6-unit apartment building. All right. What does that look like over the next 20 to 30 years? All right. Given that most mortgages are 30-year mortgages, let's bring this out another 20 years, and then I'm going to go back to my original investment and show you what a Roth IRA will look like at year 40. Okay. So 6-unit apartment building. All right. And by the way, this is what I did. 6-unit apartment building had 60,000. Actually, it's 70,000. Cost me 280,000. All right. I put 70,000 down. And if there's any comments down below that talk about, well, what about closing costs and stuff? Yeah, I get it. I had a little bit more than 70, but let's just talk straight up this, because I made that money back within a few months of rental income. $70,000 down. All right. I was making at the time $800 per month from rental income. And guess what? I am not going to even touch that over the next 30 years. I'm going to assume I never made more than $800 a month paying the mortgage down, collecting rent, never increasing rent, okay? I'm going to assume that. Now, how did that happen in real life? Not that. I was making $800 per month. I've owned this property for 15 years, and I'm now making $3,000 a month, okay? But let's not even include that. $800 a month, which is, I have my numbers written down over here, $9,600 per year over the next 30 years. All right, is $288,000 of income. All right, $288,000 of income. Now you may say, James, but you pay taxes on it. Well, no, I really didn't. Okay, there's something called depreciation. I won't even get into cost segregation and all that stuff. We're just going to talk about depreciation. Again, keeping numbers very simple. Let's just take $280,000 over the 27.5-year depreciable that you're allowed on your taxes, which allows me to write off, what was that number? $10,118 per year. Now, I also had taxes. I also had mortgage, interest on the mortgage. I also had insurance and all that stuff, okay? So we're just gonna call that I basically broke even, which is very common in real estate. Even though you're making money, you have enough to write off with depreciation. So I didn't pay any taxes on this either, all right? I'm gonna depreciate that, no taxes, and now I'm at the end of 30 years. I've not paid any taxes on the $280,000, okay? The $288,000. I've never increased rent, all right? I've never done anything, and I have a $0 mortgage, all right? So I bought it at 30. I'm at age 60. And I have something called a retirement fund, okay? Something called a retirement fund right in this 6-unit property. All right, we don't need to get into tax savings. We don't need to get into write-offs. But here's the beauty, all right? Everybody likes to talk about, oh, on average, the stock market is increased in value, 10% return, yada, yada, yada. Well, what about real estate? Okay, because this, let me save this just in case I have to go back to it. This $280,000 property, okay, 6 units. For me, 15 years, I got an offer on it a few months ago for $700,000. What's it going to be worth in another 15 years? Well, let's just assume, what, 3%? You're going to go, let's just call it $1 million. So the same 30 years, I have a paid off property, okay? I have $1 million in equity. Since I don't have a mortgage, which was about $280,000 mortgage at 5%, is about $1,200 a month. So now I'm making $2,000. So it's my original $800. My $1,200 I no longer am paying for mortgage. It doesn't include taxes, by the way. So now I'm making $2,000 a month. It's $24,000 a year. And I will continue making that for the rest of my life. I don't have to worry about running out of money like you do in a retirement fund. I don't have to worry about whether whether the government is going to change its rules. I don't have to worry about, the good thing is with a Roth IRA, you don't have to worry about taxes after you turn 60, but the government changes their rules, okay? This is what they do. They changed their rules, and I'm not going to put my money into the hands of the government who likes, and I read this article the other day, who likes to, buy $1,000 staplers. It's not their money. They don't care how much stuff costs. They just blow it. All right. So again, we can we'll go out 40 years. Okay. Let's just assume, again, this is assuming your rent has never changed. All right. So let's just keep this very simple. I've earned $800. I've earned $9,600 a year for 40 years, $384,000. I have a $1 million property, which by the way could be worth more. Well, I went out 10 years, so let's say $1 million property, no mortgage, right? I have a tax savings on it, and I'm going to get to the most important part here. And I did this in 40 years. Now, what if in retirement I wanted to give myself a raise? Well, I could tell you right now, again, like I mentioned before, this property in 15 years, I went from $800 a month. I'm now profiting about $3,000 a month, and I still have a mortgage on it because, by the way, and just to let you guys know, you can borrow money, right? You can borrow this. The opportunity cost of putting your money in a retirement account is almost to the point where you can't even calculate it, okay? My mortgage on this property is $200,000, all right? I borrowed against this $100,000 in 2011, and I borrowed another $100,000 in 2013, I believe, okay? I had equity, right? God forbid something happens. Nobody's going to ask me. Nobody's going to say you can't do something, right? I have a property that's a tangible asset. It's worth something. I only owe, $200,000, but it's worth $1 million. I'm going to borrow $400,000 from it. 2013. Okay. Let's assume in my retirement, I want to pay myself more money. All right. I got $1 million property. I'm going to increase rents. All right. Let's just say your rents were, like I said, let's get rid of this, $3,000 per month like it is now, plus the mortgage, because that's what this is how much I'll be making a month when I'm done with the mortgage. It's $4,200. It's $50,000 per year in rental income. All right. That will never run out. I'll never outlive my rental income. Well, James, you're gonna have to pay taxes on that. Yeah. Guess what? I'll never outlive my rental income. And again, you want to be smarter than everybody else that's locking their money away. How many times can I do this? Well, for me, right? I'm just going to delete that. I had a 6-unit. I bought another 6-unit. Okay. I bought this for $405. And by the way, if I was locking my money up in retirement accounts, 401ks and all that stuff, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I needed that cash flow. I was a teacher making $67,000 a year. All right. Penny pinching my way to buy these things. This was $280, like I said. I sold this one in 2018 for $600,000. Okay. 1031 this money, okay, into a 77 unit in Ohio. This one pays me $15,000 a quarter. So I sold that one. So I upgraded it. And then this one is making me $3,000. All right. And I'll do more of a in-depth stuff on my rental income, but just for now. So just my rental properties. And by the way, this 77 unit was $4.7 million. Okay. And we already, my father and I have already gotten offers on this thing for $6 million, 6 months after closing on it. You can't measure the appreciation of real estate in this calculation. You really can't, because everything's different. And so this thing I owe $200,000 on. The renters pay the renters not only pay me, pay off my mortgage and pay for everything else, right? The opportunity cost of locking your money in is outrageous. Okay, so just my rental income is $60,000. Just my rental income is $100,000 per year. Management company handles everything in Ohio. I handle a little stuff in New Jersey. It's $100,000 a year rental income. In another video, I'll talk about what cost segregation is. Okay, because this $100,000, I won't pay any taxes on. I won't pay any taxes for at least the next 7 to 8 years. All right. So even if you're starting out 20 years old, I'm telling you right now, the opportunity cost of you throwing your money in a Roth IRA versus rental properties is unmeasurable. It's unmeasurable. I don't care. Let me pull up my other slide if I can find it. I don't care what the economists say. I don't care what the market says, because guess what? All right. You could continue to do this. And I said I was going to bring this out to 40 years. You have 1,197,810. You put in 240,000. Okay. This 240,000 made you 1.197 million. This 240,000, what could it have made you in real estate? How many properties could you have bought if you just kept doing the same thing? What would that look like if you spread my personal situation out to one 6-family, another 6-family, another 6-family, or my 6-family? You know, housing prices go up, you borrow money, you leverage the bank's money, you buy a 12 unit. All of a sudden, you're a real estate mogul. You don't care. You can care less about, well, how's the stock market doing? I don't care how the stock market is doing. I literally am just looking for my next property. And here's another extremely important point. And I'm going to end on this. Let's call this real estate. This is where everybody gets wrong. Real estate value. Let's say that your real estate value, let's go like this, right? Let's go 2000 to 2007. And it went like this. And then it slowly started to creep back up, right? James, I don't want to buy at the top of the real estate. What? Oh my God, imagine if I bought here and in 2007 happens again, because we already know that the real estate market at some point is going to crash. I don't care if you buy here. I don't care where you buy your real estate. It doesn't matter, because guess what? If you buy high, $1 million property, when 5 years ago you could have got it for $600,000, ask yourself this one question. Does the rental income cover all my expenses and put money in my pocket? Because whether you bought it at $600,000 or you bought it at 1 million, guess what doesn't matter? If you bought it at 1 million and 2008 happens and it's worth 600,000, guess what that doesn't affect? It doesn't affect your rental income. The only thing that it'll affect is your ability to borrow on that property, but your tenants are paying down that mortgage no matter when you bought it. It doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, you lose leverage when the market crashes, but you still have your rental income. And over the long term, again, what great way to take your rental income, save more, right? Your 6,000 Roth IRA money continues to go into a savings account or wherever you can find a very safe investment. And now the market crashes and you're in a position to buy more rental properties. While everybody else is trying to get out, you're trying to get in. And that is my thought on a Roth IRA. There ain't nobody who's going to tell me where I should be putting my money, when I could access my money. Give me a penalty whether I want to take my money or not before a certain age, okay? And sell it to me on the fact that in the future you can pull out that money tax-free. Well, nowhere in that calculation did anybody say or talk to me about opportunity cost. Be the destiny of your own financial future. Get into real estate. There ain't nothing out there better, and I will continue to do videos on not only how I've made over $20 million over the last 4 years running my online business, but how I've built a multi-million dollar real estate business and how to buy your first property. All these videos are coming, guys. 1 to 2 videos a week. It takes a long time to prepare for them, and then forget about editing them. Do me a favor, if you like this video, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And I don't care if you agree with me or not. It's fine. I would love to talk about it back and forth. Comment down below. I check all my comments. Like the video so YouTube will show this video to more people looking into Roth IRAs, about Roth IRAs, and subscribe and turn on notifications, because as I start to do more of these videos, I'm starting to get kind of the groove of how I'm going to plan these out. A lot of people like to just do face-to-face videos. I think that drawing things out and going over numbers and kind of getting into the nitty-gritty is another good way to do it. I don't really see many people doing that. Guys, appreciate that. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment down below. Appreciate your time. I truly hope you learned something in this video. Appreciate your time. Talk to you guys later. Until the next video.